Excellent connection. Love to see that. How about the video? There we go. All right. Whoops. It's supposed to be this. Hey everybody, it's the Jimmy Doane Show. All right, you can see us live, whatever. Hey, we do this live twice a week these days at 4 o'clock. Right here. Now they're gonna see that I'm sipping coffee and not doing cocaine. You used to get this every time before the show, you know. Now you didn't notice that?
No.
Oh, well.
I never. Why would I? What?
I don't know. I thought it was funny from an audio standpoint.
Okay.
All right, today's the 16th day of December 2020. We are in studios. I'm out of the nature studio, as you can see. Jimmy is right out in front of the Supreme Court because this is serious business. I'm not sure what exactly.
I was going to say what?
But something serious. Supreme Court business.
Business, yeah.
That's right. So anyway, find us around the web, search for Doane.
All right, well, I got a few things. Anyway.
Okay.
Gold is unchanged, basically.
Yeah.
1850, something like that. And an ex-treasure hunter marks his 5th year in jail for contempt of the court. Thompson claims this guy named Thompson does not remember the location of the ship where he found the gold. He took on a case for 161 investors who paid him $12.7 million to evacuate a sunken ship, the SS.
Excavate. Probably.
It says excavate.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. Excavate a sunken ship. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Central America, the Central America, which was known as the Ship of Gold, and it sunk in 1857 during a hurricane off South Carolina. Thompson took the money but never returned the gold, whatever that means, leading the investors to sue him. Mm-hmm. The federal law on recalcitrant witnesses, or people who do not want to cooperate in a trial, holds that 18 months is generally the limit for jail time. However, a federal appeals court last year rejected Thompson's argument that the law applies to him. Now, you have to understand, he's in 5 years now, he's been in jail for not revealing the whereabouts of the gold. Mm-hmm. The order isn't intended to solely seek information, it's to seek information for the purposes of recovering these valuable assets, said law professor.
Sounds like information to me.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, right, exactly. Said law professor and legal analyst, so-and-so, director of the Case Western University's First Amendment Clinic. So it's interesting, this guy's been in for 5 years for not giving out the quote, and he says, I don't remember. You know, that's just the, well, 5 years. I mean, I don't know. Can it be forever? It's been 5 years. 18 months is normal. It's been 5 years so far.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a lot left out of the story, obviously.
Yeah.
We don't know if they found the ship before the investment happened, or did he actually find the ship for sure? Did he come back with some of the gold and say, I know where it is, and then forget later or something?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what the story was, if I remember correct. It's the same story I'm thinking of.
Yeah, could be.
But if that's the case, I mean, I'm with you. At some point, there should be a limit, but there's a little loosey-goosiness when it comes to.
Well, this is 3.5 years of loosey-goosiness.
Yeah, it's pretty loose and goosey.
Yeah, because here's the deal.
No,
it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious to me the way this looked. Nobody would have put up $12.7 million unless he had told them and brought this as proof that there was gold.
Well, I mean, that's not entirely true.
Not entirely true.
But okay, let's assume that that's true for this.
Yeah.
For the
161 investors, because I know.
Like I said, I think it's the story where he brought some of them back.
Yeah.
And then he just forgot. Like, you don't forget that kind of stuff. That's what they know.
Got bunked on the head, maybe.
Well, I mean, if that's the story, I mean, if you woke up in the hospital, all right, you know, if you went out partying that night to celebrate and 2 days later woke up in New Orleans or something, okay. But even so, I mean, that's just not something that you would forget.
Well, of course, one of the things is that about this is you'd be certainly tempted. I mean, if you had 161 investors that came up with 12.7 million, those investors were not cheapskates. I mean, they have money. Mm-hmm. And because I remember a friend of mine, remember the guy that down off the Keys that found the Atocha?
Yeah.
and of course his son died or something. There was all kinds of
tragedy,
I mean, it's tragic, and and a friend of mine
cursed gold.
Huh?
It was cursed gold.
Yeah, cursed gold, right? Whatever. Well, a friend of mine invested in it, and he got a big handful of emeralds, I think it was, but they're uncut. They're not worth that much uncut, But he got, it was the thing. But that guy, when he finally got out, he rewarded. He paid everybody off basically with the goods.
Right.
And but it took him like 10 years to find it or something.
Yeah, look, it's a labor of love. I mean, like you said, you're risking life and limb.
Your son dies. Give me a break.
It's heavy price, heavy toll. But you never know. I mean, it could have died in a car accident.
Right. So anyway, this one here, it reminds me. If I were these investors, what I'd be tempted to do is to say, let him out, and just tail him for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I mean that would be easy.
You'd hire a PI. You'd hire a bunch of PIs 24/7.
Yeah, you'd think they'd have thought of that in 5 years.
You'd have thought. Yeah. I mean, they obviously not poor.
Well, average contribution of 100,000.
Something.
At 16 million or something.
12 million.
12 million and 161 investors. So
yeah, it's probably $200,000 average or something like that investment.
Okay.
I'm guessing. Blah blah blah. Rounding. I'm rounding it. It's somewhere between $2 and 200,000.
I got 80 in my head. But anyway, it's they got enough to hire a private investigator.
Yeah.
And
as I say, 24/7. Yeah. And you do that for a couple of years, and
maybe his whole plan is to be kept in jail.
Yeah. Right. If you knew where $100 million worth of gold was stashed, and you're laying around on as they say 3 hots and a cot, I don't know.
Man, you'd think they'd put him through a bad prison day once or twice before.
Who says he had
motivation?
Okay, the next item on the list, speaking of money, Bitcoin.
Yes.
Bitcoin has soared to well over 20,000. 20,600.
Dun, man, I almost bought some at 18 the other day.
Well, again, should have, because here's the deal. What's a Bitcoin worth? There's little consensus because one of the reasons is because apparently the different coins and Bitcoin is traded on a couple of different places.
Yeah.
And I remember for a while there was an arbitrage going. I remember this was like 15 years ago when I got involved in it. Well, not 10, but it must have been 2013.
Yeah.
Is when I first got in.
Okay.
And I remember at the time, and I bought a couple, 4 or 5, whatever, but something. And then one of our listeners contributed, 10.
15.
Or 15 of them, which we unfortunately, the disk drive fragmented, whatever. Who knows? Point is that
we got some of them. Thank you.
Huh?
We got some. We got big cash out of that.
Yeah, we did well. We actually did well. I bought and sold and everything, and but that's when it was going between 250 and 500 or something, or maybe even 1100. It went up to 1100 back then.
Yeah, here, if you want to give us more Bitcoin, there's our QR code. Send it right there.
So anyway, what I noticed that even then there were 4 or 5 different. Now there's like 100. Back then there were
thousands.
Of trading vehicles that you can use for Bitcoins.
Trading vehicles, hundreds.
Okay.
Or at least 10s.
Yeah, at least 10s, right? Back then there were like 4 or 5. But still, there was a difference. Technically what you could do is to buy on one and sell on another.
Well, there's a little transfer fee.
Not much.
No, but and I don't know if you could get away with that kind of arbitrage, but it's
well, you couldn't, obviously, what arbitrage does is to level everything out. So the fact that it wasn't level meant that it's very difficult.
Well, I mean, okay.
Or that it was unsafe.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean...
Of course, Mt. Gox went belly up. That's where I had a bunch of mine, was in Mt. Gox.
Yeah.
And they sent me a note. When I tried to get it out, they said, nah, not anymore. I mean, I sent in the note to get out of it, like the day they said, more notes. No more redeeming. I'd finally figured out, back then, it was very difficult to get the money transferred into your bank.
Yeah.
You had to have all kinds of transfer things and everything. It took.
Remember, you had to drive down to Eckerd's at some point.
That was to buy them.
Right. Okay.
You had to go buy it. You went down to, back then it was Eckerd's, now CVS, and you would give the money to the cashier. She would give you a receipt. You'd walk over to the red phone, literally the red phone, and you'd call up the whoever it was, and you'd give them your receipt number on what you call it, and then they would have, quote, the cash and then you could transfer it and go buy Bitcoin. And then once you did that, you could either have it on your wallet on your computer, or you could keep it with Mt. Gox or somebody. And of course, that was a mistake because they went.
Well, who knew? You know.
Yeah, who knew? No, nobody knew. This is all brandy new.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to understand that between 2010 and 2013, it had gone from a dime per Bitcoin or less up to $300. You know, so I mean, the rush was on. So.
Yeah. Now, the easy way for people who want to know is there's a great app called Coinbase, which allows you to trade back and forth between your bank. You can link it up real easy, and it hosts a couple of dozen different types of coins, all the popular coins, if you want to get in. And so that's what I would recommend. There's another one called CoinCap, which compares them all. It has a nice little.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, there was one of those before.
You can compare by all different aspects of the coin, market value, movement rate, increase over time, all kinds of stuff.
Even the market cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but here's the problem, of course, and you know, poor Peter Schiff must be just hating life right now. He's sitting over there with a bunch of yellow metal, and nobody, and people are buying ethereal, digital nothingness, you know. And the problem with Bitcoin is the same from the beginning, and that is that even though it's limited in its supply, in every coin has a limited supply, there's an infinite number of potential coins. So there is no limited supply in the.
Yeah, there is. With Bitcoin, there is.
No, but see, there's an infinite number of different Bitcoin variants.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, okay.
And so you know, there's nothing special about it anymore. And I mean,
you say that, but let me
it's $20,700.
Yeah.
I mean, its only factor, which is a real factor, is just its network effect, and so that may carry it a long way. I mean, it could go to 100,000 or more or whatever. But
well, let me tell you, I'm not sure this is a parallel, but here, of course, we have dollars here. But if you strolled into the into the store down here with Swiss francs, they're not going to take them.
No.
I mean, even though it's money, you know, so to speak, it's paper money.
And Bitcoin's the same way.
Kind of the same way. What? Let me go on.
Okay.
Do you know that what's interesting is that one Bitcoin, now you can call it what you want, but one Bitcoin will buy 10 ounces of gold.
It's crazy.
I mean, let me tell you something. If I had one Bitcoin, I would be like so liquidating today to get 10 ounces of gold.
Yeah.
For me, you got to be kidding me. 10 Krugerrands for one Bitcoin? I don't care who you are. I don't care if Bitcoin goes to $1 million. I'd rather have the 10 ounces of gold today.
Well, I mean, you say that, but it's.
I know other people obviously making the same calculation, but for me, you know, as you say, Peter Schiff might be, you know, when he realizes that he can take 1 ounce of gold and buy 1/10 of a Bitcoin, what? I mean, he must, like you say, pee in his pants or something.
Yeah, it's craziness.
It is, to me, that's insanity. But anyway, but interestingly enough, Mass Mutual has joined the Bitcoin Club with $100 million purchase. Wait, it gets better.
Okay.
Apparently this NYDIG, which is a transfer for Bitcoins and stuff like that, they're brokers. They have about 2.3 billion of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies under management. So they're getting paid their 1 or 2% a year just to manage this stuff, which is fine. That's the way to be in it.
Well, and you know, like Coinbase gets a small fund on the transfer.
Do they? Oh yeah, not much though.
No.
It's really
a buck or something.
Yeah, right. It's inconsequential. However, moving on, this was this morning's headline on Zero Hedge. A giant Bitcoin whale emerges with a transformational $1 billion stake. This is not $100 million; it's $1 billion stake, according to Bloomberg. So a hedge fund specializing in volatility bets and has emerged as
Well, I mean, what a gamble. I mean, it's such a...
A 1 billion. Anyway, they Bitcoin buy more than 600 million in cryptocurrencies in recent months and joining forces with legendary trader so-and-so, co-founder of the Brevin Howard Asset Management. So here you are, you put your money with this guy Howard, or Alan, excuse me, Mr. Howard, whatever. And he sends you a note, says, we just bought Bitcoin. I guess that's one way to do it. Yeah, right. Talk about the game. But I thought, $1 billion. That's getting on. That's a chunk. I mean, that's going to move, and it obviously has moved the market. The market's up $100 or no, $1,000 since a week ago.
Oh yeah. In fact, 2,000.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah, the volatility of it is insanity. That's why, I mean, it's a fun gamble. I mean, if you
have real money, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
but you're not going to have it for long.
Well, gamble.
That's right, gamble. That's right.
We're not talking about investment here. This is not the Warren Buffett strategy of preserve your capital.
No, you're right.
Get a small return on investment or something. No.
Yeah.
You're going for the moonshot. You're going for the multiple.
During the if you want to have fun, there's been all kinds of stories and books written on the tulip mania in the Netherlands in the 1600s, I think it was. And at one point, a single tulip was worth over a house. But right before it crashed, you could have traded your special tulip in, and then had
your 10 gold coins.
That's what I'm telling you. That's, as I say, for me, that's the limit right there. I'm saying there, okay,
I'm out. Give me the gold.
Give me the gold. That's right. Now,
yeah, I'm with you. I mean, and 20,000 was the top before. I mean, who knows? But
it's a mania. I think it's a mania.
It is. Yeah. There's no question. I mean, but at some point, I mean, like I said, I think somebody will attach something, which they have apparently, to the crypto.
Yeah.
And then that's going to be the new crypto du jour.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't you? I mean, if your crypto is attached to something and it has a floor.
Yeah. Right. That's right.
So.
Yeah. Well, of course, it used to be. I remember years and years ago when I first started investing in coins. The government price of silver was like $1.25 or something. So couldn't go any lower than that.
There you go.
But it did. It did for a little while. It went down to 90 cents an ounce, and I'm thinking this is insane because you can walk into any treasury place and they'll give you the money. But so anyway, I just thought it was kind of interesting that's what can happen in a mania, is that can go both ways. Anyway, okay, moving on.
Okay.
This is another thing I thought this is kind of interesting that you need to know. Speaking of money, the Fed today finished off its Wednesday meeting. It does every month or whatever it is. And they leave all policies unchanged. They will keep QE until quote, substantial further progress is made. What they've decided to do is to monetize everything. And what they've done is they're committed to its full range of tools to support the U.S. economy. So its full range of tools
is that legal?
Yeah, is that right? I will make it legal. No, the point is its full range of tools are exactly one, and that's to print money.
What's so funny is when they talk about their full range of tools, all they are is various commitments to buy different types of assets.
Two mainly.
Well, I mean, all they can do is print money and put it into the market.
Right.
But they can do it, and like they fool themselves into thinking, oh, it's a strategic way because we're only going to buy X types of mortgages or something like that.
Right. Well, they're talking about mortgage-backed securities.
Right.
So we've seen how that works.
Oh, well, this is look. They are in full panic mode by all accounts. From the people that we pay attention to, they have got to monetize tons and tons of debt. They've got $1 trillion turning over in the next few weeks, and then $5 trillion next year. They're not collecting that in taxes.
No.
So, and of course, in the meantime, they're supposed to be doling out cash to the public.
Yeah, to the cities and to people, like this new thing. The word on the street is that we're going to get another check.
Everybody, and when you do the numbers on those checks, I mean, if everybody gets a $1,200 check, that's like 10% of the money that they're going to hand out. The 90% of it goes to, like you said, schools or businesses,
cities,
or churches, or some other
payroll, something.
Yeah, and of course, all those people who own all those businesses and who work for all those businesses at every level all get their $1,200 check also on top of that. So it's just like a bailout. I mean, man, we went from, Chrysler may open the door. I mean, it could be a slippery slope,
This is in 1980.
Right.
1980, when Lee Iacocca went to Congress and said, Chrysler's going to fail, and it was $7 billion, I remember.
And 40 years later, there is
trillions.
It is a flood, an absolute tsunami of cash that is coming into the market. I heard one statistic that something like 20% of all the dollars that are in circulation were created this year.
Again,
I don't know how many that they take out. I can only believe that if they were also taken out a few trillion. You know what I mean? And they sort of do a little math there or something. Because
I don't know. Again, we're getting into the weeds. Let me continue on with this here. Federal Reserve will continue to increase its holdings of Treasury securities by $80 billion a month. Mm-hmm. And its mortgage-backed securities by $40 billion a month until substantial further progress has been made toward the committee's maximum employment and price stability goals. These asset purchases help foster a smooth market functioning and accommodative, nice word, financial conditions, thereby supporting the flow of credit to households and businesses. Now, one of the things you have to understand is credit is the other side of debt.
Right.
And that's so you can have credit, but if you take advantage of your credit, you're in debt.
Right.
You have to pay it back. Now, one of the things, if you can't, there's a problem. Of course, that's when you have people, going under, bankruptcies and so forth. But what I find fascinating is that, as you just mentioned, within the next 12 months, there's going to be, this $80 billion per month and $40 billion per month is going to pale into insignificance. They're looking for stability. And one of the things that happens is, a lot of people don't realize, is the great law of unintended consequences. You don't know where this bubble's going to come out. Now, right now, apparently, some of that money's going into Bitcoin. Could be. I don't know. Yeah. Some of it's going to the stock market. Some of the stocks. You look at some of these stocks now. These are gambling stocks. And the Fed has said, we are absolutely going to keep rates at near zero. Borrowing rates near zero. Who wouldn't want to borrow near zero? But except for the fact that you have to pay it back.
Well, yeah,
no matter what.
And look, here's the problem is that rates have been near zero now for 12 years.
12 years.
And what's happened is, of course, everybody who could even think, who even fantasized about borrowing for some ridiculous business venture, has gone ahead and got the money at this point.
Right.
I get inundated with credit cards.
Yeah.
They're dying to give away the money.
Yeah.
And so you know that everything at this point has been tried, and it's just got to be a teetering.
Well, I remember when the first meltdown, whatever it was the thing. This was when right after they separated they combined the savings and loans institutions, which were the mortgage people, with the banks.
Right.
And they put them together. This is like 1980 or something. And that's when the Keating Five people came up. And this is a license to loan money to anybody. Basically, is what it boiled down to. And then they defaulted on it.
It was the first thing where the government said, we're backing some part of the bank, and by the way, you can gamble.
Yep.
And it's like, look,
these guys were sitting here. Here's the deal: you weren't supposed to gamble. What they did is the feds went out there and put a couple of $1 billion on the table and says, just take what you need.
Right.
You got to be kidding me. Are you crazy?
Well, it's the same thing that happened in the mortgage blow-up in the 90s.
Yeah.
When the feds agreed to back all the mortgages that were written in the same fashion.
And they also said, oh, by the way, If you have subprime mortgages, that means people who are not reliable payer backer people will take those too.
If as long as they're written on the same script as the
Right.
Fannie Freddie thing, the standard mortgage, and they did, and they churned them out like nobody's business, and so
Well, they were, what do you call it? You used to call them, what was a signature? No, what did you call those loans?
Oh, right, ninja loans.
Ninja loans.
That's right. No income, no assets, no, job.
Ninja.
That's
no
right.
income, no assets, no job. I love it. That's great.
So yeah, look, it's bad, and I don't know where they're going to get the money from this time and where it's going to. I can only guess that it must be going into the stock market, because where else can you put it? At some point, at the end of the day, you've funded everybody. You funded your son's band. You know, everybody is funded to the teeth, and then, well, okay, I guess I'll just buy some more stock. Is what it comes down to.
Well, we've seen that so far. The stock market having
Right.
gone up to what it is. I
Right.
mean, that's been a lot of it, because you look and you start to figure out where else can I put it. It's a tough call.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
that's-
no, the danger is, of course, that what happens is the dollar, which indexes drop down into the 90 point something at
Oh,
this
yeah.
point. Yeah. If the foreign markets sense some weakness in that, they could bail on they could bail on assets priced in dollars, which would of course be US stocks.
Right.
And so it might be a good idea to get into foreign stocks of some type as a hedge against American dollar.
Well, that's called diversification. You always
Yeah.
want to do that. I mean, you should have, as we got here, we should have a little gold. You should have a little real estate. You should maybe some stocks. You diversify. The problem, of course, has been since the last dozen years, is that the middle class has been decimated by this low interest rate because you can't get any money. In other words, what you'd like to do when you retire is to have a steady income. Well, first of all, your Social Security is worthless because that hasn't, that doesn't keep up with anything. I mean, that's a Ponzi scheme. We know that. The fact is that if you had, as I did, in the 80s and 90s, I had bonds that paid, 5, 6, 8% municipal bonds. They were great. But as they matured, then you wanted to go buy some more bonds, but they were yielding 1%. I mean, suddenly your income tanked. And that decimated the middle class.
Well, and it's going to get so much worse if the
Absolutely.
actual inflation hits.
Yeah, right.
Because then all the money that they actually saved, that they do have in the banks, isn't going to pay for squat anymore.
No, and not only that. I mean, we've seen this before. I mean, a lot of people, young people out there don't know. I saw this in the 70s. And what happened in the 70s was that the big deal was that the grandparents on Social Security were starting to eat cat food because it wasn't keeping up. So that's when they passed this thing called COLA.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the early 70s, I believe, and that was the cost of living adjustment. So this was now, you don't have to worry, Grandma, we're going to raise, according to the inflation, a consumer price index, we'll raise your Social Security check to keep you even. Yeah, well, no.
Well, that's obviously because they key it off of their own mix of what they consider to
Right,
be essential
right.
goods and services, which
Yeah.
doesn't include energy and food.
Right.
And so I mean that's obviously rigged a bit, but I mean when the food prices have gone up tremendously.
Oh my God.
We actually made a list a while back of items. This is our inflation list here. So the gold is up a bit from then. Gas is up a bit from then. I think the Levi's are up since then. Walt Disney World one-day ticket was $200. That was April 1st, but we'll come back and check next year.
I mean, when I was a kid, that 16-ounce Coke bottle was a dime.
Yeah.
So, now you did have to take the bottle back and get a refund on some of the money. Okay. So the next item
Mm-hmm.
is our friend Cuomo in New York.
Uh-huh.
Says another New York total shutdown is something to worry about.
Yeah.
He wants, there's two things. First of all, he warned all non-essential businesses could close if hospitals approach their maximum capacity. And of course, he also has totally banned indoor dining, any indoor dining. No keeping space, no nothing, not banned it totally. In New York City, in New York.
Yeah.
People, whether you like it or not, people eat out. I don't know what it is, but the restaurant business has got to be a phenomenal chunk of the GDP.
Yeah, from what I recall, it's pretty good size, but whatever it is, it's been cut in half during this whole thing.
And at the same time, of course, all those people are being laid off.
Yeah.
So anyway, he defended his position, arguing that operational restrictions, that is to say, the fact that you can't eat, we're saying we're going to restrict you from eating indoors, are not the real problem. No, I guess it is, because this is one of those, if one person dies, whatever, then it's worth it, that kind of thing. New York's current coronavirus response plan calls for a shutdown of any region in which local hospitals are 3 weeks away from hitting 90%. I'm drawing this out of the air, 3 weeks, 90%, I'm out of my butt. But I thought this was interesting that they always talk about the non-essential businesses. What's non-essential?
Look, here's the deal. They're just making stuff up.
I know.
And
it's getting away with it.
Well, they are right now. This is one of those times when there's an opportunity for Americans to carve out some rights, or some rights are going to get infringed upon. And because we're in a situation that really hasn't happened in 100 years. They addressed the smallpox vaccine issue, and they addressed some health issues like that back then, but nobody has ever tried to shut down. Nobody has ever tried to do lockdowns on all of New York, or it's insanity. The state's power originally comes from the crown. These were grants from the crown,
right?
And they had plenary power at that point. They could do anything.
Yeah.
Now they ceded some of their power to the federal government,
right?
But then even more, when the 14th Amendment was passed, as you know, some of the restrictions on the federal government get applied to the state governments now, and that's the problem that's the angle of attack that attorneys should be taking right now in defense of businesses who should try to open. What you should do is, and there's some businesses who are trying to open, but what they're doing is they're throwing themselves sort of out in front of the bus, or onto the fire.
Right.
It's like, that's great, and I make a smoke signal and burn my ass. Like, that's not what you want to do exactly. What they should be doing is they should be suing all up and down the river, state court, federal court, anywhere they can get an attorney to file a suit, and it has to be something novel and new. They have to say, look, we have a right implied in the Constitution for to go to work, something like that, or to leave our houses. It's such a fundamental right.
But is it? It's such a fundamental right. It seems to me it supersedes the Constitution.
Well, but that's what you do. You have to point it out. You have to use the Constitution as your shield or your sword to sort of ground those rights. So what you do is you take something like the Ninth Amendment,
right?
And it says, look, it says the things not granted to the states or whatever, reserved to the people. These are the things. It's always been thought of as the things that are so obvious that you don't need to state them.
Right.
And they are, I have the right to breathe air, I have the right to go outside of my house, and I have the right to work at my job, and somebody should stake a claim on one of those rights from a legal perspective. And that's the problem, that the reason they haven't done it yet is because lawyers are loath to try anything novel. You need somebody who's willing to take a risk, go out there and say, look, we have never established the actual right to work in the Constitution, but it should be in there. And they've read some rights into the Constitution, like the whole abortion thing came out of that. It's this emanating penumbras of, people always use, they look down on that opinion because it just creates stuff out of the air. And it kind of does, but what they should have done was, all they had to do was attach it to the Ninth Amendment and say, look, it's something within your body, whatever it is, you have the state may think it's going to be a life form soon, and a human or whatever, but right now it's just a part of your body, something like that. Like, they could have attached it to the Ninth Amendment or the 10th Amendment, and they should do that, and that's what they should do in this circumstance. And people should fight for their rights to not be locked down.
Well, now, didn't Griswold in the 60s find this right to privacy?
Yeah.
And that previously was not there, or what?
Well, see, that's the thing, is that the Constitution was laid out pretty broadly.
Yeah.
And then over the decades, those rights have been expounded upon in the courts.
Enumerated.
Well, they were previously enumerated, but now they've been fleshed out a bit.
Okay.
And it took a while. I mean, Miranda rights, weren't read to you until Mr. Miranda was arrested in the 1960s, I
Right.
think. And so, these things have been carved out, and especially like if you're a minority group, as you didn't get, they would beat the confession out of you for decades.
The rubber hose confession.
Exactly.
Confession, yeah.
I mean, so it's only been really in the last 60, 70 years or so that
In my lifetime.
there you go. That really we've gotten around to sort of TV rights, which are okay, Mr. So and so, come with us. John, would you put your hands behind your back? Let's get you in the car. We'll take you. You want to drive down? We'll follow you down to the station or something. That kind of a thing. But now would be a good time for them to carve out some further rights for the people.
It could, of course, what is also interesting, and of course this kind of the usual conspiracy stuff, but why I've been reading more and more essays by sort of semi-okay people about, the revolution or the Civil War approaching and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, that stuff is bubbled to the top. I don't want to talk about it today, but
yeah, to me, it's a nothing burger because there's nobody on the other side.
I understand. And I just thought it was interesting that I have seen probably a 200 or 300% increase in essays along those lines.
Yeah.
So okay. Speaking of, now this actually is interesting. One of the things. This is not actually inflation. How tight is the Christmas tree supply? Now I will say this: Mrs. Jimmy did one thing last year. She went out and bought for the first time. Not like her at all. She's a everything's natural. She's not a vegetarian by any stretch, but she's close in a lot of things. Everything is right normal. But every year she has bought a fantastic tree. But last year she went and got a phony tree, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it really is nice. So we're not buying. But here's the reason I'm bringing that up is because, and I don't know why they haven't flown off the shelves. How tight is the Christmas tree supply? An 8-footer can sell for $2,000.
Where?
In
Hawaii or something?
Well, no, close. Close, in Hong Kong or Singapore or someplace.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, but so the Christmas tree shortage has its roots in a global recession more than a decade ago. And now here's the reason why. I thought this was kind of interesting. It doesn't have anything so much to do with inflation as it does the supply and demand.
Global warming.
No.
Oh.
What happens is, in order to grow a Christmas tree, it takes about 12 years.
Okay.
You have to plan 12 years ahead. 12 years ago, there was a glut, so people didn't plant them. And now there's fewer.
Christmas is back, baby.
And Christmas is back. So anyway, and who is to know that more and more people are going to celebrate in their homes and go out and buy a tree or whatever the hell it is? Apparently this one guy was saying, and here it is. Of course, it's still a week and a half, 2 weeks before Christmas. But they said you went down there, right at 1st of December, and it's empty, gone.
Well, if you think about one, I can imagine at least one catalyst for that, and that is, of course, if families who would normally get together are staying apart,
right,
then it could easily double the demand and overnight.
And that with the shortage,
right?
Because 12 years ago, when you were trying to make plans for 12 years, you talk about, it's one thing to make plans, when you're planting corn in May for harvest in June, that's one thing. Okay, I can understand that.
Go ahead and look out 12 years.
Yeah,
buddy.
but God,
you got to be
say what you want. So anyway, and he says, there were farms that just closed. Apparently, the wildfires on the West Coast burned up a lot of other places too. A lot of those are the spruce trees out there, whatever. Okay, so anyway, he says between 8-10 years. Okay, and so anyway, the prices have been going up because of inflation a little bit. Anyway, because they've been going over the past couple of years about 30%. Anyway, I mean, I've noticed that. But apparently this year, it's a real problem.
Anything that's super retail like that has been going through the roof.
Yeah. Okay, moving along, another item I've got here, just see here. An ex-Facebook exec, I don't know what that means about anything, suggested everyone who gets vaccinated to wear a certain color mask. You think there's any problem there?
What?
What? I love this. This is some guy from India, it looks like from the name.
I think they should have to wear a flag, like a pole, and then it's got like a flag on the top.
Could
with
be.
like a little bell on it or something.
Well, they were thinking maybe a tattoo.
Right.
You know, what
Some
you do is you
numbers.
put a number and you
Yeah.
tattoo it right here on your arm.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and you put a, so, you know, like a series of numbers, you know, like an idea on the spot where they were given, maybe a wrist area for so quick showing on the
Yeah.
wrist, you know, why not?
Barcode.
Yeah. So one of the comments was when somebody said, when they were talking about this guy who says you could wear a colored mask, like who wouldn't cheat? You know, what are you talking about? I guess maybe you have to show your papers to get the mask, maybe. So, you know, it's a certified mask.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the one guy says about the guy, this Papataya, whatever, the guy that was suggesting this one guy asked, "Did you eat lead window flakes as a kid?" I thought that was funny.
He probably still is a kid, you know. That's the first
Yeah,
thing
right.
I think of.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's an ex-Facebook exec. He's probably 29 years old.
17.
Yeah, whatever. He had to be there for a couple of years.
He
so.
was there from 13 to 17.
Yeah, right. Yes, there you go. Now, the other thing I thought was kind of interesting, the Cleveland Indians, did we talk about this before, are
No.
dropping their name?
Yeah, I heard that.
Indians, pressure has said that it's racist or whatever it is,
Right,
whatever. So
now
they have
now they're
agreed.
just- Mhm. So now they're just going to be known as the Indians?
No, you can't use it. Yeah, right. I don't think so. The Cleveland Indians
they're
are
dropping
dropping
the
their
offensive
long
part.
criticized moniker amid mounting pressure that it's racist and insensitive.
Right.
But they're going to keep the name for 2021. What they're going to do is, I think what the Redskins have done, they're just going to call them the Washington team or the Cleveland team.
The
or
football team, they've already done that, yeah.
The what now?
The football team.
The football team, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Clever.
so they reported the decision Sunday. Anyway, they told the AP that they will continue to use the name. I don't know what name they're going to use until in 2021.
Uh-huh.
Of course, we're
Well,
going to.
I think it's about time they get rid of the word Cleveland.
Yeah, there's another one, right? Yeah. Okay, another item that I got here: climate change.
Okay.
Here's a climate change. An atlas. There's
It's
an
back.
atlas. Huh?
It's back.
It's back. Well, it is. What happens is, it's kind of interesting. An atlas reveals climate change is pushing birds further north. Data from 120,000 bird watchers in 48 countries shows that forest birds have expanded their range while area occupied by farmland birds has shrunk. Europe's breeding bird populations have shifted an average of 1 kilometer north every year for the past 30 years. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting that, you know, and I've seen this, you will see sometimes that it'll be a news report. First time ever in London, such and such bird shows
Right.
up. And I'm thinking, well, he didn't get blood. And I thought that was, they're saying that it's driven by climate change, which, you know, I can understand that. So what? You know, this is one thing that I get about this is the birds are pretty smart, okay? They're not idiots. They're going where it's more temperate. And of course, if Obama wants to buy a place on Cape Cod or whatever it is on the waterfront, because he's not worried about, the birds are sitting there saying, yeah, no, I'm heading to where it's more comfortable for me. At least they can fly and start over. But I thought it was interesting that there's all these thousands of bird watchers, and they catalog the stuff, you know.
Yeah.
There's an atlas that's put out by, you know, they put it all together, and they have found that
That's a nice cross-referencing tool.
it's great. I mean, it tells you. Let me tell you something that's kind of interesting. You can sit there and make your measurements about your carbon dioxide and your satellite images and this, that, and the other thing. The birds,
Yeah.
you know, I'm telling you, and the
Thousands
moths
of
and the
that.
caterpillars.
Right.
I'm sorry, That's
They know.
They know. They exactly know.
Yeah.
And that's what you ought to be going.
As I pointed out many times, there was an ice age, and before the ice age, there was another ice age.
Yeah.
And in between the two, there was an interglacial period.
Yeah.
And the seas were a lot higher at that point. So we could have another 2,000 years of warming ready,
And
So.
and if you can't adjust to that, I mean, you got to think about it as it is. When
You got years, you got decades.
decades. Well, not only that, and when you think about it, when the kids leave the home, get out of the nest or whatever, they're thinking about, where am I going to move to?
Right.
Okay. Well, that's a shift. That's in one generation.
Sure.
You can have a shift one way or the other.
Yeah, you can leave any day.
Yeah.
You can leave.
Pack up.
Right. And look, and here's the good news is that humans from 100,000 years ago survived the changes. They got
Yeah.
out of the way.
Well, they did. And of course, of course, a generation then was like 30 years or something. But
Well, no, that's just because of the child mortality.
well, that's true. You're right. I mean, you're exactly right. No, I'm reminded, for instance, of one of my favorite movies is When Harry Met Sally, and they were leaving college. Everything they owned was in the car. Everything. I mean, they were moving, and they went to wherever they were going. That was. I mean, you talk about a shift. Where am I going to live? That's. I mean, that is to me the people in the 20 to 25 year bracket when they're going to make a decision on where they're so mobile you can't imagine.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm not worried about.
Plenty of time.
Okay, now the last thing I've got that I think is kind of interesting. Anonymous sources, and I hate that, of course, claim that President Trump is sympathetic to the Free Ross campaign.
Oh, right, yeah.
Look who's here.
Don't pay any attention.
No, don't pay any attention to your cat. According to the Daily Beast, outgoing President Donald Trump is considering granting clemency to Ross Ulbricht,
Yeah.
founder and operator of the pioneering darknet market Silk Road. He was arrested in 2013, okay, it was 7 years ago or something like that, and received 2 life sentences without parole for non-violent offenses, and he received that in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know, it seems to me that's a little strong.
Well, yeah. Well, except that, I mean, I've heard, and I don't know what actually Ross did. I don't know what he was convicted of exactly. The rumor that I heard was that he operated the Silk Road, which allowed the transfer of money through Bitcoin.
Right.
And the allegations were such that every criminal enterprise you can imagine was using it
Right.
at the time.
Yeah, but apparently there were a lot of that.
Right.
A chunk of the Silk Road was in illicit activities. Yeah, okay.
Right. Well,
And?
I mean, if he is aware that there are, for example, murders being contracted for on his platform.
Yeah, I don't. I think it was mostly just drugs and stuff.
Well, that's why I say I don't know. And
Yeah,
if it was, if he could clearly see, oh look, we got a bunch of hits from Sicily this week, or whatever. I mean, if he could somehow figure out that it was.
Why did they go after the perpetrators, the people in Sicily and those kinds of stuff? I mean, I'm looking at this, for instance, his was a platform kind of like Facebook, only it was dark webby.
Look, I think that if I were to look into it, that I would 100% agree with you, and that I would call for his exoneration and pardon. I think that that's where he was coming from. The guy had no criminal record.
Nothing.
He
was a kid.
You don't just go into facilitating criminal underground enterprises from never having a criminal record. You go into that kind of thing when they've given you the ultimatum, they've stamped you with some sort of felony conviction and barred you from having a job in normal life or something, and branded you or something, child sex offender or something. So we'll see. I mean, I've heard the rumor as well. But, to me, the much more obvious ones are Assange and Snowden.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
Those guys are journalists as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, totally.
Capital J, especially Snowden, who was so careful about the way he released everything.
Yeah.
And about how, and so much of it was determined ultimately to be unconstitutional, the programs that he exposed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
We'll see. To me, there's still, as crazy as it sounds, there still seems to be a path to Trump's victory here. And I say that
Wow.
because, literally, largely because the media is still out there trying to convince us that Joe Biden has already won.
Right.
They keep putting out statement after statement after statement about how ridiculous it is to challenge it. Now, you don't need to do that if it's ridiculous to actually challenge it. Biden came out and did a victory speech after the Electoral College thing. Okay, well, he's done one already after the vote, and he'll do another one in January.
Right, sure.
So what do you need another one for? The only reason is for advertising. It's for marketing purposes. And the concept that they're trying to market is he's the president. And the only reason they would need to market that is if somehow there's still a question in their minds. If they still think, shit, he could pull this out in some way. And I mean...
Well, you listen to NPR, for instance. There's no doubt in their minds that he's president. I mean, they're not scared
but that's
or anything.
not who they're trying to convince. I mean, those people are in the tank.
Right, okay.
I mean, they're...
Who else? Well, I noticed you saw where Mitch came out and said, okay, and so did Putin.
They congratulated him. But, I mean, look, here's the bottom line is this. It's quite simple. What we haven't seen in the news everywhere that you would expect at this point are computer experts.
Right.
How come we haven't seen the McAfees out there saying, "Oh, yeah, I tried to hack it, couldn't hack it." Dominion, nope, it was freaking bulletproof. It took my team 2 weeks to get in. Whatever I got in while we were talking here for the last while you were sitting here. I hacked in from my phone. Here, I'm going to change the results so that something like that. We haven't seen any of that stuff, and that's really kind of interesting because that would be the evidence that you would trot out in court. Trump has one path as far as I can see, and that is he literally brings in computer experts who say, "Judge, here is the voting machine. Watch this." And now I'm altering the code, and I'm telling it what to do, and here you can see, Your Honor, is the vote change. And on top of that, this is where the votes were changed, this precinct, this precinct, this precinct, this precinct. We know that from the phone records cross-reference, and also we've called in a whole bunch of people from Georgia, and we asked them, who did you think you voted for? Who did you vote for? And they told us, so-and-so, and the answer is the other guy, or whatever it is. And we did a little math and determined that sample population determines that literally this whole thing was shifted, okay? And by the way, it was done in 4 other states also, okay? If he does that, and he's got 2 weeks to do that or something, the Supreme Court will say, oh, this election stinks to high heaven, and we can't rely on it, and you got to do something else. And they would order something else. Well, look, it's been done a couple times before.
Pandora's box.
It's been done before, twice. So you suck it up. It's part of the Constitution. I think everybody has started to realize that the voting day on November 4th is like such a kind of jokey thing. It's sort of tangentially connected to
they've already started early voting for the Georgia thing for the senators.
Well, there you go.
I mean, this is like
it's all going to come out in the next 30 days, 40 days.
Sure, yeah.
Or not. Either that or the Supreme Court's going to say, go pound sand. That's right.
Yeah, I got about 30 or 45 days or something before the 20th.
That's right. Now, hopefully the Supreme Court will at least take up whatever case is out there in order to reject it, if nothing else. If nothing else. Because that's what we would want. It would be better to have some kind of a ruling from them that everybody can sort of hang their hat on and say, okay, this is the way we're going.
Well, a lot of people are not going to hang their hat on anything.
Well, I think if the Supreme Court came out and said something and made some declaration and said, look, this is the deal, unless they say, what Scott Adams predicts, he thinks they're going to come out and say, yeah, there was a bunch of fraud and voting, but too bad.
Yeah.
we're not going to do anything.
Well, it's funny you should say that about something about the Supreme Court, because I remember when I first came down south, in the first time I came down here in very early '60s, there were still billboards everywhere impeach Earl Warren.
Right.
And I mean, they were serious about, they wanted, because of Brown versus Board of Education, and that, which was in '55 or something. About '60, there were still billboards everywhere against get rid of the guy. So
well, he was the biggest wackaloon of all justices.
And of course, what was interesting was that to his dying day, Eisenhower said, "Boy, what a mistake that was."
Yeah, I mean that was the thing, So now I did hear Trump did win something in Wisconsin.
Again,
you don't hear it anywhere,
no.
But I heard he won one in Wisconsin.
Could be.
So and it was big.
Okay,
so we'll see. And of course, I heard about forensic analysis in Michigan.
Really?
Yes. Which
why didn't I see that? I don't
because
understand.
that's what I'm saying. This is weird. Either this is bullshit stories or they're getting buried.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing like what I would expect. The computer experts. Now, if Biden gets in, there is one cool thing on the horizon from my perspective as a libertarian, as the crazy
the dope.
That one's a good one, yeah. Okay. But no, as the small L libertarian that I am, whatever you want to call it, not real, that's going around the web. You're not a real libertarian unless you're not a real libertarian.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's right. And so, from my perspective, Joe has the power to do the amnesty, and he could. They're begging him for it.
Amnesty
for the 31 million or 11 million immigrants or whatever.
Oh right, yeah.
Illegals.
Yeah. He's gonna. Apparently, he's made it crystal clear he's going to fire up DACA.
He could do a big flex and just be like, "I hereby do the Reagan thing.
Yeah,
you're all good. You're good here. Nothing to see here."
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a power move. I'm hoping he does something like that. That would be cool.
Well, I'll say, yeah. I'm not sure about that myself.
All right, three candidates for crazy story of the week, real quick.
Okay.
There's the Dr. Jill one.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, that is...
Well, this makes perfect sense. It's all about identity or whatever, But, you get what?
You should, again, as always, go to West Wing.
Right. Oh yeah, they have this,
and they have exactly this.
No.
Where this woman was in the Oval Office or in a thing there, and she was a talk show doctor. And she went by doctor.
Right.
And Martin Sheen, the president, said, and she didn't stand up when the president came in.
Oh right, yeah.
But then he said something about and what kind of a doctor are you?
Right.
And he nailed her. Just completely,
Well, he gave her the business. He said, "I'm the president of the United States, and you stand."
I know,
yeah,
but
I call you Mr. President for a reason.
But I'm telling you, this has been done before.
That episode.
I love it. Okay, go ahead.
Right, anyway,
the next thing.
But can we get over herself, Dr.
Oh
Jill?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Delaware. She has an education degree from Delaware or something.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I've joked with my friends, my lawyer friends, Dr. So-and-so, but we're joking, like we wouldn't do it on a plane or whatever.
Now, let me tell you what you can do.
What?
For not a whole lot of money, you can get a diploma. I mean, certified everything. Okay, go ahead.
Lizzo, you remember I asked you about her a couple weeks ago?
Who?
Lizzo is this entertainment singer. My question to you a few weeks ago was, did you know who she was? And you didn't. And, so
I still don't.
And you wouldn't. But her characteristic is that she's incredibly fat. She's huge.
Okay.
And they made her into the body positive movement girl.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay. So they put her on the cover of a magazine in like a skimpy bikini and stuff like that. Like this was weeks ago. Okay.
Okay.
And now, she's decided to lose some weight.
Oh, and they're pissed at her.
They are pissed.
Oh my God! No. Oh my God, the social media. You can't do that.
She's abandoning the body positive movement
my God.
in favor of her liver.
Or life.
Right.
You know, whatever it is. No, but won't that be hysterical if she gets like a bandy thing and, you know, a year from now she's down to, you know, a size 6?
Right.
Oh my God, that piss him off.
I don't know. And of course, I don't know who's. Okay, and the third one was at Mississippi State University, the cops were called because somebody found a drawing of a penis.
Okay, and they were called?
Criminal imaging, I guess, or I don't know.
But what do they? How did you? What do you say on the phone?
To get them over there.
Yeah, what do you say to get them over here? Look, go.
Well, I'll tell you what they said. They said that somebody in the dorm room was calling somebody else a Nazi.
Okay, and the penis is what?
Some kind of sex crime. Nazi sex crime is what we have here.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
The cops showed up. Okay, so which one of the? It sounds like between the three of those, that may be the stupidest one. Lizzo getting bashed for losing weight, Dr. Jill, or
yeah.
Nazi
well, that's
baby.
yeah. Well, maybe it's one of those things that they misinterpreted. When Nazi, they meant not see. I did not see so and so. So
yeah, probably.
That's it. Okay.
All right, and then one more interesting thought: the conspiracy of the week. This is kind of interesting.
I love this. Out of all of them, you picked one. Okay.
Yeah, well, this is actually kind of interesting because there was some details involved in this. So there was this woman named Brandy Vaughn who used to be a sales rep for Merck.
Sounds like a stripper.
Brandy, yeah, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, she was a sales rep for Merck, and she noticed some peculiarities in what was going on in the reporting between what Merck's results were for their vaccines and the stuff that she was selling. And so she founded a group called like Truth in Vaccine or Learn the Truth or some shit like this, okay? So she's a vaccine safety advocate now.
Okay.
She quit working for Merck. And in the last year, she says she's been receiving veiled threats to her life, basically. Whatever, shit moved around in her apartment. She got, they left her a duck after she was talking about being a sitting duck or something. So on December 8th, she turned up dead. And she actually had a whole thing that she wrote out to her friends, like, if I turn up dead, it's not because I'm suicidal, and she listed all the reasons why she's not suicidal and that kind of stuff. Now, the first autopsy report is, something with her gallbladder or something. So who knows, but it's just like I said, the conspiracy theory of the week is the vaccine, the head of the vaccine.
Boy, I'll tell you, that's a good one.
Group.
That's
there
a good one. That goes in with the Twin Towers and Kennedy. Yeah, okay, good deal.
Something, who knows? Oh, and there was this great video online, and this was totally unrelated, but related in a way, where somebody was apparently being given the vaccine, but there was no needle in the syringe. And when you zoomed in, you could see there was no needle. Yeah,
Okay.
So I guess we'll wait and see. All right.
Well, all that stuff has only started a day or two ago, so we'll see more what's going to happen as people start keeling over from. I certainly might want to carry my anaphylactic shot thing around with me.
I am going to wait until... It's so funny they're talking about, oh, yeah, Biden, I'll take it on TV. Well, we don't know what they're giving you. Freaking saline solution.
Yeah, that's right.
Who the hell knows what you're getting?
Well, Ms. Jimmy says that I really should go because I'm one of those that is really at risk.
Right. I know.
My immune system is beat down every day.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I don't know. Also, as a science update, real quick, did you see the protein folding thing?
No.
What? You didn't see that?
No, I thought.
Oh my! All right, I got to come back for 1 second. They one of the supercomputers, not Deep Blue or Blue Horizon or I don't know something, solved the protein folding problem.
Completely?
No. And of course they're still checking it.
Right.
But the concept is apparently it was able to make some predictions that nobody else was able to make,
Wow.
based on obviously projecting out some shapes in billions of different combinations and then coming up with a few.
Well, this is a little bit more than what, as I said, I talked about this a couple months, I think, because they did the SETI thing where you
Yeah.
could on your when you were away from your computer, you could do all those computations. They also did that with the folding. You could sign on
Oh, okay.
and you would download a whole bunch of proteins, and while you're not there,
Your
your
computer's
sleep mode would
checking them out. Well, they're getting the supercomputers on this stuff.
All right.
So, good news. All right. Thank you for these tracks, Dr. McLeod. We really appreciate it.
Wait a minute, how do you know he's a doctor?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute.
I just elevated
Whoops.
him up. So, Reverend Monsignor
Yeah, that's it.
Lord McLeod.
Lord, that's right.
We appreciate it. Come join us anytime, of course, over at jimmydoneshow.com or jimmydone.com. Both of them we got. And you can find us around the web in audio and sometimes video. You search for Doane, D-O-A-N-E. We'll be back on
Sunday.
20th. All right, coming up on Christmas. Coming in hot. So we'll see you soon.